I just realized I left all my camera gear out in the box,
Out in the box.
in the middle of nowhere next to my tripod. We'll see. We'll see what the crime rate in Milford is.
We'll see if it's there when we get back.
I may have to put an expense report into out of spec. Kyle, I need new GoPros. He'll definitely not cover that. Welcome to another episode of Out of Spec Dave. I'm super excited today because we have here a 2014 Cadillac ELR sitting right next to my 2016 Cadillac ELR. Now, you ask, what are the odds of having two of these in one place here in Milford, Connecticut? Actually pretty low, but this is the car that I actually test drove at the Jeep dealership in Norwalk. Welcome to another episode of Out of Spec Dave, where I am checking out the Cadillac ELR. This is a 2014 that's available at my local dealership. And I gotta tell you, this thing looks really sweet. It's basically a Chevy Volt underneath it. And I just wanted to kind of come over here and drive it just to see what the differences are. And this is the one that I actually bought. And what happened was the guy that actually bought this car, he reached out to me and he said, hey Dave, I got a couple of questions for you. I said, we got to collab. So here we are today. The mission today is simple. We're going to create the ultimate ELR comparo video, the 2014 versus the 2016. What's the difference and which one is the right car for you? So let's get into it. So sitting under the lights of Scooby-Doo's here in Milford, Connecticut, check this out. We have two, absolutely, arguably, two of the best looking cars ever made, especially by Cadillac for sure. I mean, if you want to get on and argue whether or not this car is good looking or not, I will take that debate on. You know, just checking out the differences between these cars, one of the things, my new friend Tim, who you'll meet here in a moment, he's got the 2014. I think he wins in the wheel department. Check out these wheels on my 2016. This is not the sport model, but I like these platinum wheels over here on the 2014. I think they're both 20-inch wheels, but man, those, I think they look a lot better than my wheels. I mean, it's a minor thing, not a big deal. If he's not looking, I may swap them. We'll see. All right, so meet my new friend Tim. Tim, tell me a little bit about yourself and what is that behind you there?
This is my 2014 Cadillac ELR. Coincidence is, a few minutes after I went in to look at this car, you also came in and drove this car, hence the video that you have on
Unbelievable timing, crazy.
Unbelievable timing, absolutely phenomenal.
So you ended up in an how did you end up in an ELR? I mean,
I have a beloved 2009 Mini Cooper, John Cooper Works, that I've been driving for years, and unfortunately I blew a cylinder on it like 3 weeks ago. So that's going to be an engine rebuild. It's going to take me some time. I needed to get a replacement. I wanted a plug-in hybrid, and years ago I saw, I think it was 2009, 2010, I saw an ad for a Cadillac Converge concept car.
Right, Converj.
Right.
It was the Converge, yes.
It was beautiful. I've never seen anything like that. And when I was looking for a new plug-in hybrid, I came across, for my wife in 2020, I came across the Cadillac ELR, and I was just shocked at the price. You know, back then there were between 25 and 30 grand for the car. Now they're just a bargain that you can't beat.
Yeah, and I mean, when this thing was new,
yeah.
Let's go back in time, right?
Yep.
When this is a 2014, so this car would have been introduced to the market in, you know, calendar year 2013, right at the time when the Model S had been out for about a year, which was just blowing away the market. Now, you know, the concept of going full-blown EV back then was frightening for a lot of people. Like, what is that, EV? and look, 65, 75,000 for a Model S, that was a lot of money for a car. But this thing, Tim, how much?
I bought this thing for just about $14,000.
Okay, but back then, this thing was...
Well, I think this particular model started at 72, the average 75, and with I think it was, you only get one or two packages. There's only a couple of packages you can get for the car. Was $82,000.
$82,000.
$82,000.
Okay. And so when you figure in tax and all that, you're talking, you know, over $85,000.
Right.
The one unique feature that this car has that my car also has is the adaptive cruise, which I believe was a $1,200 option. But you know, it's so funny. I drove the car. I made a video with this car. I'll put a little link to that video down below here, and I really started to do some research on the ELRs. I really didn't know that much about them. I think, Tim, you know, we were talking earlier about the Volt a little bit.
Right.
And I remember back in the day, my family, we were at Epcot, and we had just come off GM's test track. And you know, when after the ride, they dump you into the t-shirt shop and all that. And then after that, Kyle and I came out and we saw the Chevy Volt. And we're like, what is that? Yeah. And that was before the car came out. It was a concept then. And you know, it was really a fascinating thing to talk about hybrid technology back then.
Right.
And you know, I got really fascinated with the Volt. Never owned a Volt, never really drove a Volt, but you know, I bought a Volt because my son Kyle's got my Model X out in Colorado right now, and I needed a car to drive around. So I figured, let me explore sort of the pre-owned market, the used market.
Exactly.
And I bought the Volt, and I made a video about it. Tim, what was so funny was like, Dave, you should have bought, all the comments were, you should have got an ELR. I didn't even know what it was.
Really?
So there were a total of around 2,900 of these cars made. And back in the day, when Cadillac was trying to get at least 75 grand for them, they just couldn't sell them.
No.
Right? So they made about 23 or 2,400 of the 2014s, and then in 2015 they were just sitting on the lot. They didn't make them, and so in 2016 they made some improvements, which we're going to go over today, and they ended up making 543 of the 2016s. And as I started to research it, I said, you know what? I want to find a 2016, and I really like the white, and I really love that saddle brown leather seats that is, you know, in your
Beautiful.
car. And my goal was to find a white one with the saddle brown seats, 2016, with the adaptive cruise. And that's what I found over here. So really rare car. And so how are you finding your car so far, and what kind of issues have you had with it so far?
Well, I've had one major issue so far. As soon as I drove it off the lot, the check engine light came on, and as soon as I got it home, I had an issue charging it. So I think it's not a big deal, hopefully. From my research, I think it's either a low 12-volt battery or a sensor issue. Either way, I'm not too worried about it because it is a Volt engine after all. American car repairs should be fairly inexpensive.
Right.
So I rolled the dice on it anyway.
Yeah.
And I love it. I love driving it. I love the reaction I get. Everywhere I go, someone's commenting about it. Everybody's head turns as it drives by. It's just a magnificent vehicle.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, look, let's maybe take a little time and go over some of the differences between these two cars, and then we'll do a quick little tour. I'd like you to drive my car, and just, you know, locally, just to see what it's important to drive other cars that are the same exact cars. There's one thing I do want to point out to you. When you put the car in low mode, and what that does is it invokes the regen a lot stronger. One of the things that I find is that it's very clunky in low speed acceleration, stop and go.
Interesting.
But when you put it in, and I remember that in your car when I drove it at Garavelle,
Really?
at the Jeep dealer, and I say, oh, something's wrong with that car. It's like, it's a minor thing, but I'm very sensitive to little things
Sure.
like that. And my car does the same exact thing. And so what I discovered is all you have to do is put the car in drive, and it smooths it out. So I'd like you to feel like next time you drive your car and see if you feel a difference in when you're in low mode versus drive.
I will do.
And I think that was just more a design. I don't want to call it a flaw, but I think that GM perhaps could have refined that a little bit smoother. The reason why I think it's probably the way the cars were designed is because the odds of both of them operating exactly the same way is pretty high. That's just the way it was designed.
Right.
All right, so Tim, I'm going to stand like this, right?
Sorry, Dave.
5'6", 6'5". You know what? It doesn't matter. We have ELRs, and we're going to go over some of the differences. So, you know, as we mentioned before, GM, Cadillac, they just couldn't sell these things, right? Gorgeous car, arguably from an interior side and an exterior side, they've really nailed it on both sides. But they did try in 2015. It sounds like they retooled the car, and they wanted to make it better, right? So let's make it better. And then the other thing they did was
wondering why it wasn't selling.
Yeah, why isn't this thing selling, right? You know, it's like, I don't know if you've seen, I call this the Volt in a tuxedo, right? And it's kind of a funny way of summarizing it. Cadillac has done that. Remember the Cimarron years ago? It was like I think it was an X car. They had the Chevy, maybe it was like a Cavalier, and they put the badge on it, and they tried to redo this car a little bit. The first thing they did was they changed the badge. You can see the front grille and the badge. Aesthetically, that's really the only thing that I see, other than you got better wheels than I do. So you definitely win there. And I'm not saying that that's better than this. It's just it's a little bit different. I think Cadillac back in 2016, they had they revealed a whole new, if you will, sort of a logo and a design, so that they incorporated that into the 2016. They redesigned the electric drive system on the 2016, boosting the horsepower by 29% and the torque by 26%. Now,
interesting.
We were talking about, this is not a fast car.
No.
When you compare it to, I just drove the new Model 3 refresh rear-wheel drive car yesterday.
Yep.
And that thing jumps off the line pretty quickly. I drive a Model X Plaid, which is just ridiculously fast. I get in this car. This car is not about 0 to 60 or speed, but it just looks like it's moving fast when it's not even moving.
That's right.
But the car was really a lot slower in 2014 than it was in 2016. So I'm curious to see what you think about it after you drive it.
Yep.
They tweaked the handling, the steering, and the braking. Okay, again, I don't know what exactly they did, but we'll check that out. And the big deal for me was they updated the Cadillac Q system, so it now includes Apple Carplay, which I love. And I really love Waze, and that with adaptive cruise, I'm all set. The other thing they did from 2014 to 2016 was, you'll remember when cell phones were like 3G, and then this is before LTE and all that. This car was 3G, so when you connect it up to the app, you're able to control your car from your app. But the cell phone companies retired 3G, so this one is 4G, so you can use the app to remotely unlock or start your car, as opposed to the 2014, you can't do that. And then in 2016, they said, you know what, they're going to have a performance package as well, which had some cooler wheels and a little bit, maybe a little bit faster. But if you are shopping for an ELR, and I encourage you to do it because I think they're great cars. There are way more 2014s than there are 2016s on the market. What's your feeling about 2014 versus 2016? Are you indifferent, or are you thinking?
Well, at the moment, the price I was able to get this for, the price you were able to get your for was great too, but I'm indifferent about it. I don't really, I'm thinking about once the charging's available in this car, after I get it serviced, a little performance chip will make.
Can you do that?
Yeah, there's power commanders you can buy.
Nice.
Yes.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And that'll give me almost 424 pound-feet of torque.
Okay, well, we got to do that. I definitely got to do that. In 2016, some of the other things they did specifically around the handling, steering, and braking, just so you know when we go out and drive these things, is new bushings for the lower control arms, cradle mounts, rear suspension changing, different hyper strut calibration, increased front spring rates, and a stiffer rear axle, the addition of a front damper, rebound spring. When you're going over bumps at low speed, does your suspension squeak a little bit?
Yes.
So does mine. You know what? I'm not gonna chase that one. I think I think that's an expensive one to fix. I think we're gonna call that character.
Yeah.
Right. You got to have a squeaky ELR. It's not bad.
No.
But it's noticeable.
It doesn't happen all the time.
It doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah.
Right? Once you're at speed,
right,
it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I do want to point out is I also have the little cousin or sister or whatever, the Volt, and the range when I plug my car in on this car, originally it was, I think they increased it to 39 miles
Right.
versus 37 or something like that from 2014 to 2016. But you know, these cars have been driven. What does yours have? 102,000 miles?
Right.
That's what I remember. Mine's got 107,000 miles on it. And so when I plug it in, just so you know, once you get your battery up and running, I'm only seeing about 28 miles of indicated range.
Really?
Now the difference is in the Volt is when I put the car in normal mode. There's 3 modes. There's normal mode, sport mode, there's mountain mode, and then there's hold mode. So there's 4 different modes in the car. Mountain mode is a stupid name for just keep the battery at the state of charge where it's at and use the engine to actually recharge the battery. That's probably a smart thing for you to be driving around in.
Right now.
Right now, right. Sport mode definitely kicks up a little bit more oomph, and hold mode just holds the energy, it actually keeps the energy at where it is constant, and it just drives mostly on the engine itself. But the Volt doesn't turn the engine on anywhere near as much as the ELR. And I think what they did was this is just my observation, I think what they did was they programmed the engine to kick on a lot more, so that you have a lot more power available to you.
In the 2016 version?
Well,
or both?
I think definitely in the 2016 version, but I have a 6-mile commute to work every day, one way. And in the Volt, which I was commuting with quite a bit, I had to absolutely recharge the car every 2 days. This car, I drove it to work 5 days this week, and I didn't have to recharge it because it was using the engine so much more to keep the state of charge.
It was acting almost like a hybrid.
So it's a different. Cadillac changed the way they're using the engine with the battery, and over time I'd be curious to know how much different it is 16 versus 14, but definitely a big difference between the Volt and the ELR. Tim, let's talk about the Voltec technology. What have you learned about this?
Well, to me, I think Chevrolet was spot on with this technology. I mean, you have a fully functional plug-in hybrid that at the time seemed to me would have been attractive to most people, except at the time most people were terrified of electric vehicles. No, you know, there wasn't a lot of charging stations, the range wasn't all that high. I mean, this one only had 37 miles of range, but it was a perfect combination of gas and electric. And I'm actually a little shocked that this technology still, you know, isn't around, so to speak, in the Chevy realm and in the Cadillac realm. I mean, it fills so many holes, and in the era of climate change, it's, you know, it would have been a great technology to have adopted by most people.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we were talking about earlier is this is the engine right over here, and then this is the power module, the Voltec power module. And inside the car, one of the reasons why the rear seats are bucket seats in the rear is because the battery is like this giant T-shaped battery. That's kind of interesting. A lot of the more modern day electric cars are flat batteries in the bottom of the car, that allows you to have a flat floor. And this, you know, in that respect, one could say that it was a little bit archaic, but it's cool looking, the bucket seats in the rear. But do you think I'd fit in the rear of the rear seats of these?
Not at all.
You might if let's say
I could.
You could, but not if I'm driving the car. But this module right here, this Voltec module, I find fascinating. I mean, look at all these orange wires. You know, it's amazing. But the idea of this was that you would be able to connect up whatever power source to the Voltec, so that the engine acts as a generator that powers or recharges the battery. Right. Very similar to the i3, right? A regen, R3. They call
Which
them.
I also looked at, by the way.
Yeah, and I've owned a couple of those. Those are cool little cars, quirky little cars.
Yeah.
I think, you know, BMW spent so much money investing in that car, carbon fiber chassis, everything about that car, incredible. But the concept is that the engine powers, it sends the energy into the Voltec, which then decides whether or not it's going to send the power to, this is a front wheel drive car, or it sends it to the battery to obviously to power the motor. But one of the things that's really interesting, Tim, I don't know if you found out about this, but back in the day when Chevy was selling or Cadillac was selling these cars, this was technically classified as an EV. But the car over 70 miles an hour actually powered the wheels directly from the gas engine. And so the marketing guys said this was a pure EV. Let's call it the guys that for qualification, whether or not it's an EV to get the 7500, they said it was an EV. But this Voltec technology is so sophisticated with the clutch, the mechanism, that it decides whether or not it's going to send the power from the engine to the battery, or from the engine to the actual wheels themselves. Little known fact. Now, please comment below in the comments if I'm wrong. If you're one of the GM techs that designed this car, I mean, let's be honest, it's 2024 right now. You're probably not going to get in trouble, but my understanding is above 70 miles an hour, this engine is powering the wheels directly. I'm just trying to see if there's any differences between mine and yours. There's this interesting piece there, which do I see
engine
that?
cover?
It's a little bit, yeah, it's a little bit different.
A little bit.
And what's the engine cover?
Yeah, for the electric motor, cover is a little different.
Oh, this is for the gas engine here.
Gas engine, right?
This is the gas engine. Here's your oil. Did you do an oil change on yours?
They did it before I purchased it.
Oh, they did. Nice job. By the way, have you checked out what percentage this car has been driven on electric versus gas?
No, I haven't.
There's a way to do it.
Okay.
I'll show you.
All right.
But I forget how. I'm going to have to call you. But what's interesting is my Volt was driven 66% on electric.
No kidding.
This car was driven only 43% on electric. And I'll be really curious to see, because they have basically the same mileage, 107 versus 102,000 on yours. And the way that I was just describing earlier about how the gas engine kicks on more when you're driving the ELR versus the Volt,
Right.
I'm wondering if this car was more road trip more and charged less, or if it's just the way they deployed the power. I'll be curious to see if your car was above 50%, electric or not. Because, Tim, when you think about it, your car's got 102,000 miles on it.
Sure.
But if the car was driven, let's say 60% of the time on electric, the gas engine's only got 40K on it.
That was my rationale when I was looking into these and the Volts. I was looking into the Volts, the i3, and this one. And that was my rationale. The gas motor was going to be used a lot less when you think about it. The actual mileage may vary, but that was the rationale.
Absolutely, yeah.
Hi, folks. I'm in Dave's car. I'm going to take it out for a little ride. 2016 Cadillac ELR. Amazing vehicle. Put the car in low, which is usually a good place to get regen done. Take it out on the road. And I can feel a little kind of chugging. It slows down and immediately starts to brake. Immediately it starts to decrease as I drive. Speed kicks off. Very different from the car if I keep it in drive. The low mode is definitely the regen mode. Get the most out of your regeneration in that mode. We're in beautiful Milford, Connecticut here. There's boats everywhere, right by the shore. Now here we go. Have it in drive. Does not slow down when you let your foot off the gas as it does in the low mode. Not quite as much regen in this mode. This car looks almost exactly the same inside as my 2014 ELR does. Go and take a little look at the modes in this 2016. I'm going to give me a little sport mode and see what that does. It apparently gives you 1.5 seconds greater 0 to 60 than the 2014 and 2016. These cars are just astonishing, I think. I think if everyone adopted this technology back in the day, we would be saving a lot on fossil fuel emissions. And I'm shocked that this technology actually didn't do better than it did. I understand how the Cadillac ELR, it was priced to an extreme. So there's, nobody was going to pay $82,000 for even a partial electric car back in 2014, 2016. I don't think the infrastructure wasn't there, but this technology was way ahead of its time. It's used more now than it was back then, and Cadillac's loss is definitely my gain. I get this magnificent car, and this 2016. Like I said, in the interior, I don't see much of a difference. I don't see any difference, actually. It's all carbon fiber. It's all beautiful wood, high-end. It definitely looks and feels like an $82,000 car. And when you get into it, it looks like a supercar. It feels like a supercar. It's definitely over-the-top, luxurious. See what this sport mode will show us. It's quicker. It's definitely a little bit quicker than my car, for sure. But not much more. I wouldn't say it's much more. But you can clearly see how many miles you have. Well, the left side of the display is the is the electric, and the right side of the display is the gasoline. In the 2016 models, I believe you can combine the two of them. I'm not sure about the 2014 model. I think in the 2014 model, the gas engine basically just regens the battery, but I'm not sure. Ultra rare. I get heads turned wherever I go when I drive my car. So this car with the beautiful white, the beautiful pearl white, it's just even that much nicer. Driving by the old Milford Academy now, on Gulf Street in Milford, and this is just lickety-split quick. This kind of reminds me of the old Supremes I used to own back in the days when, they were fairly quick, but they were also very luxurious. All right, here we go. Off the sport mode again. Very nice. Very nice. Then you're not going to win any races here, but I did see that you could buy a power commander for these things that would increase your horsepower and your torque significantly. So that's going to be my next expense for my beautiful Cadillac ELR. And that's really all I think I'm going to need. These cars turn heads wherever you go. It's super rare. It's an instant classic. If you can find one, I would absolutely recommend trying to purchase it, because you're never going to see a value like this again. I mean, I believe even the Chevy Volts are an extreme value, and the BMW i3s are an amazing value, and but this is just an over-the-top value, an astonishing value. If you charge it during the day, you'll get your 30 some odd miles of range, 30 to 40 some odd miles of range, and all your daily driving, unless you take a trip, most of your daily driving will be all electric. And that's a beautiful compromise in this day and age. It's a perfect compromise when the infrastructure isn't there, when the infrastructure isn't available, as it wasn't in 2014 and 2016. Once again, I'm just absolutely shocked that this technology didn't take off. I think Chevrolet was spot on creating this Voltec technology. I think it was exactly what we needed. It's exactly what we need now, actually. And I'm just shocked it's not more popular. I absolutely love this car, 2016 and the 2014 ELRs. They're magnificent vehicles.
All right, so here I am on the inside of the ELR. This is the 2014, and I don't really see much noticeable differences, between my car interior wise and also this car. It's pretty much the same layout. You'll notice that Tim does have the adaptive cruise. This button right here tells you whether or not you have it or not. Again, a $1,200 option. I used it to drive here up 95, and it really is quite good. But you'll notice here, this is a bit concerning, not able to charge. And it says here on this 2014, high voltage charging system. Now, Tim has an appointment with, you'll notice he's got EV mile range of 10, which is just under the halfway mark. And I know that he's been driving the car in mountain mode. There are Tour, Sport, I thought it was normal. It's Tour, Sport, Mountain, and mountain mode. And hold mode doesn't work if you're below 50%, I believe it is. So the way he's been driving in his mountain mode, which basically keeps the energy going into the battery pack, so it doesn't deplete the entire battery pack. These cars, by the way, do require premium fuel. You can see that it's got 192 miles of range on with the gas engine. And of course, you've got the most important feature, which is the power cup holder cover, right? Everyone needs that, which is important. But yeah, look, it's very similar. I would say the seats are in a little bit better condition in this car than perhaps in mine. There's a couple of spots on this particular car. This maybe is a little marked up down here. Not a big deal, but yeah, this is all the same here. And yeah, I would say it's in good shape. Just gotta fix this high voltage system. Here comes Tim in the 2016 ELR. Oh man, I'm super curious to hear what your thoughts are.
You know, the interior is exactly like mine. Sport mode is a little bit peppier.
Really?
But not much.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it's much.
Okay.
I mean, I would only notice it because I drive a 2014, but it's barely noticeable.
Right.
I would say.
Right.
But otherwise, it seems like the exact same car.
Yeah. Same squeaky suspension.
Same tiny squeaks.
Little tiny squeaks here and there. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good. Well, I'm glad you got a chance. You don't mind if I take yours out for a spin?
Absolutely.
All right, let me check that out. All right, so Tim, here we are inside the Mean Machine, the 2014 ELR. And first thing I says, not able to charge. It's like, but you know what? He's got the right attitude. No big deal. We'll fix it, right? That's part of the fun when you're buying a pre-owned vehicle. You've got the check engine light on there.
Yep.
Which is something I did notice, by the way, when I drove this car at the dealership.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a mode in here where you can actually see if you're taking energy from the battery or from the gas engine. Have you do you put it in that mode?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right.
I've seen that.
All right. Well, let me drive this thing. And oh, you know what? I gotta put the steering. I'm gonna mess up all your settings. You know, I hope you know that. I just told Tim about both our cars came with one key fob. Let me see that key fob for a second. This thing right here, Cadillac wanted $550 to get me an extra key fob, which is actually, this is mine, right? So all right. And I got a little trick. I'm gonna make a separate video on this because I'm gonna save you money. It doesn't matter what car you have. There's a little trick for that. But yeah, I did hear a little experience in the suspension there. Yeah.
Feels the same.
Feels the same.
Mm-hmm.
How are the tires on this car?
They look pretty good.
Yeah, see, I had to buy new tires.
I think they're. I think I have.
Oh, this is where we should have filmed, Tim.
Right. Right.
This is nice down here.
That's where all the boats are.
Yeah, let me go down this way here. So I used to have a boat and I would keep it in Stamford and I would buzz up here to Milford and then dock it for the day and then go in and have lunch in town. There's some great restaurants in this.
There are.
Some really good restaurants in Milford, Connecticut here. Remember years ago they had Milford Jai Alai?
Yes.
What the heck? I never went there, but it was like there was gambling a lot. You were allowed to bet on those things, right?
Yeah.
Did you ever go?
I did.
You
I
did?
did go to Milford Jai Alai.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
A couple of times.
Were there a couple of ELRs parked in the parking lot then?
There was no such thing as an ELR back
No,
then.
because they killed that a while back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, there's an interesting story about the restaurant up here on the corner. I knew someone who was in there, and they were backing out of a space, and they hit a Volvo station wagon on the way out, back into a Volvo station wagon. And when they turned around, they noticed the bluest eyes they've ever seen staring at them over their sunglasses. And it turns out they ran into Paul Newman in the park.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, he's a Westport guy.
He is, yeah.
Yeah.
He was down here having lunch.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say Frank Sinatra.
That would have been Sally's in New Haven.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
That was his place.
That's right. We have a Sally's a Pizza in Stamford now.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, they opened one up. Yeah. So now you can hear the engine on, but we're in mountain mode. I was going to go straight, but I guess I shouldn't because it says do not enter. No, this I feel right at home here.
Yeah.
This feels just like my car. I definitely want to get it out on the road a little bit. How's your touch screen in this car? Have you had any issues with dead spots in it?
Maybe.
Here we go.
It's a little temperamental. I mean, it's definitely older technology.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, you know what happens is, okay, there we go. So if I go to sound, there's like, if I want to pick a button that's right in this area, I can't.
Right.
But you know what's nice is they have a lot of buttons that are duplicated. So you have power, like volume here or changing the stations there. I'm just going to buzz up to just around here a little bit. I just realized I left all my camera gear out in the box.
Out in the box.
in the middle of nowhere next to my tripod. We'll see what the crime rate in Milford is.
We'll see if it's there when we get back.
I may have to put an expense report into out of spec. Kyle, I need new GoPros. He'll definitely not cover that. All right, let me just, yeah, you hear the engine, very similar sound. The Volt, by the way, much louder.
Really?
Oh yeah. The insulation in this car, in the ELR compared to the Volt, is way quieter in this car.
Yeah, the interior on this car is just over the top. Over the top.
It really is. I mean, you've got this Alcantara. Is that? Or yeah, it is.
Yeah. Really
nice interior.
Yeah. And you know, the Chevy Volt, I did drive one a while back, and it's a beautiful car, but it's definitely, you know, American car utilitarian.
Yeah.
Inside.
Well, you know, the thing about this car is this is not as practical as the Volt.
No.
And so if you think about it, you're a family of four,
right,
a two-door coupe that basically has no backseat, right? Let's be honest. And it originally was intended to be I believe conceptually, not like the concept car that came out, but they wanted to bring this car out as a 5-seater, and because of the way they made the decision on the battery pack being that T, it ended up being a 4-seater.
Oh, no kidding.
Yep. And then the other thing is the trunk there's no frunk, and you know, most people who have frunks, you know, with EVs, they don't really use them.
No.
I forget I have it.
Really?
The Lucid I had a huge frunk that I actually did use because it was power, but in my Model X, it's pretty big, but you gotta manually open it. I just use the back hatch. But because you've got so much heavy artillery up in the front of these ELRs and Volts, you know, gas engine, it's a very complicated system that's going on up there. You know, there's no room for a frunk, but The hatchback part of the Volt is so practical, right? You just have so much more room with a hatchback, and it really is a much more usable car. Having said that, I found, because I'm a big guy, getting in and out of the Volt is a little tricky because the B pillar is it's pretty far forward. And so with my big gut, to slide in between the steering wheel and the B pillar, I kind of have to wedge myself in there. And having the two doors of the ELR, it's a wide opening.
You're right.
And it's so much easier to get into. The downside of that is that it's a little bit tricky to, no one stole my stuff.
Good.
All right,
Thank
good.
God.
But it's a little bit tricky when you're parking in like the grocery store or whatever, because the door opens, but you have to really open it far in order to get in and out.
Yeah, they're very wide doors.
They're
very
wide
long
doors, right?
Yeah.
So it's nice if no one's on either side of you, but it's a little tricky in tight parking spots. Oh, did you check out, by the way, the when you were in low mode on the car?
Yes, I did.
Did you feel it?
I did. I did feel it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely regenerating the car. I mean, as soon as you take your foot off the gas, you're slowing down immediately.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there's a little bit of a slam and all of that.
Yep.
The other thing is, I love you feel in the seat when it buzzes.
Yep.
You know, it was so funny. I was filming the video in this car before you bought it, and I had my cell phone up here, and I'm filming myself, and all of a sudden I feel my seat buzzing. And I'm like,
Yeah.
how's that possible?
Yeah. Yeah. I saw that in the video, actually. Yeah. Yeah.
Right, how is that possible? And then I realized, and what's so cool is that if the car detects it's going to hit something on the right side, it's the right side of the seat, and if it's on the left side, you feel it on the left side of the seat. The safety features that were built into this car blow away what is in the Volt. I mean, you've got the
lane warning.
Yeah, like the lane warning, and if a car is in your blind spot assist and all of that, you've got that going. And then, you know, like Tesla's just pure vision now. You know, you've got the little sonar, little devices in the front that detect anything, and you've got the backup camera. Let me check out the backup camera on this car. Yours is better than mine. Mine is washed out.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe it's just the lens.
I think I'm going to put something over my lens because it's good. All right, well, let's wrap up this video. I think this has been great, Tim. It's been great getting to know you.
Yeah, great getting to
And
know you, Dave.
it's good to meet a fellow ELR owner. You see all like in the dash over there where it shows you as you're getting closer to, if you're getting closer to something. Oh, the high voltage charging system. Let me dismiss
Service
that.
high voltage
Dismiss
charging
that.
system.
But you see how it's yellow,
Yeah.
yellow, and then it'll go red, whatever.
Yeah.
It's great feedback, really good.
It really is.
What are your final thoughts here?
Well, I love these cars. You know, I wanted a plug-in hybrid, and I can't imagine a nicer plug-in hybrid to drive than a Cadillac ELR.
And I'm glad you were able to drive both of them. They drive very similarly. You know, what I would say is that if you're in the market for an ELR, and you find a 2016 and it has all the features you want with the mileage you want at the price you want, jump on it for sure.
Agreed.
But I wouldn't shy away from a 2014 either.
No.
You know, unless you're, for whatever reason, one of the features that you need is super important to you, I would definitely say there's a lot more 2014s that are on the road. You know, from this angle, Tim, I can see how my ELR has the dark Florida tinted windows that are probably highly illegal here in the state of Connecticut. And yours, you can just see the normal, the regular factory tint that was on the windows, which is not super light, but well, Tim, definitely going to have to do an update video at some point. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to come meet me up here in Milford.
Thank you, Dave.
And this has been a great time. Thanks again, everyone, for watching another episode of Out of Spec Dave. Hope you found this video useful. We had a lot of fun making it. You take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.